You're a loss, Roger Smith.
That's a first. I'm used to human women saying that to me. Yes, Norman.
Master Roger, in West Dome number 5, there's a report of a giant robot.
Chicks dig giant robots.
It is so difficult for everyone to accept.
You try to assassinate him. I will not hesitate to deal with you.
Deal with me. I'll deal with you, robot head jerk-ass.
Pretty cool, huh?
So, what brings you here?
I'm trying to figure out how to fix an Arab 220.
Easy. Just hold the power button, wait 5 seconds, and press print. Got that?
Power button.
Oh, boy.
I'm having a little trouble understanding. Can you tell what?
Duck loogie.
Female, before you die, I need a name.
Digimon, Takato Man.
Bow and tremble in fear before you stand Smitus, Lord of the Outer Rings, Mayor of Moonrovia, Capo of the Crab Nebula, and Destroyer of Worlds.
Don't worry, little guy. Uncle Heatwave's got you. Bit of a skinny chap, isn't he?
And I have got to find out who does his lipo.
You look like you could use some rest and fattening up. Care to join us, Attila?
My computer!
Good morning!
Who are you?
No.
I'm your Uncle Grandpa!
That's who we closed.
So the whole wanting to destroy you and take over your empire thing wasn't clear. Well done. But the Green Goblin has a solution. You and I join forces. Consider what we could accomplish by combining our powers. We could rule New York!
Cloud. You got some pretty classy moves for a corporate girl.
The more that you know, the shorter your life will be.
I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass.
Were you saying something? Because I couldn't hear you on the sound of Reptile's ball going in the hole. In the hole!
Lucky shot.
I'll give you a lucky shot to the nose!
Holster those eye beams, frat boy. Magneto's got the professor. Now, are you in?
Dream on. What's he talking about?
Difficult students are all Sensei.
I have come through fire.
How do you see what happens when you guys head out without me? Gee whiz.
Kenta.
The two of us would have been here faster, but I wasn't sure exactly where here was.
He's here.
Oh, not again. Marine Angemon, time to go poo, buddy.
Wow, Kenta, you saved us.
Hey, you're right.
Oh no. Too late. Ninja? I didn't know we had a ninja.
Hey, you're a boy.
Actually, I'm an unholy demon. If I were Aaron souls for my lord and master Beelzebub. But I used to be a boy.
I want to help my sister get a date for the dance, and I need a crash course on how boys think.
Okay, do you know anything about boys?
I know they like boobies.
Halfway there.
I told you I would destroy you.
This would be so cool.
Good evening, my friends. Thank you for coming out. How is everyone tonight? Have I met most of you yet? You're not sick of me yet? All right, nice. That was enthusiastic. Well, let's see if we can change that, shall we? I think tonight we'll just leave it as a kind of a casual round table and see what's on your mind. So if you guys have questions, put your hand up nice and high and we'll have a microphone run over to you. And Mr. Microphone, you choose the people. It's all up to you, no pressure. Okay. Here we come, the first victim. You are brave. You're a brave and hearty soul. Uh-oh. Let's wait till we can hear you. And stand up and tell me your name, too, when you get a chance. When it's working. Okay, you got a thumbs up. Nothing? Yeah.
All right. I'm a big Amon fan of your Legend of Korra.
Thank you. You've been purified.
And I was wondering, you worked with the creators of Avatar, right? You've met Brian Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino?
Absolutely. They're there at every single session.
How do you feel about, the ending, that situation in a Nickelodeon show? The ending, Amon's end.
I was a little surprised. Dee Baker, who played my brother on the show, he and I have done a lot of shows opposite one another, and that one affected us more profoundly than pretty much anything we had ever been on. In fact, we kind of had a moment of silence together. We just couldn't believe it. We were just kind of shaking our heads and went, no.
They really pushed the limits for a Nickelodeon show. You would think it's a kids show. But
They did, yeah. But I think that's one of the beautiful things about Avatar. They're not afraid of taking chances, and they're not afraid of going into some of the mythology and history and incorporating all of those elements in. And so they're not afraid to take those kinds of chances either, thankfully. Thanks for watching.
It's about Orochimaru. I have one of my friends who is wants to know more of Orochimaru's past. What do you think Orochimaru's past was like when he was a child?
Probably disturbing. Anybody that's got that kind of stuff going on has got to have some sort of messed up childhood, I would imagine. Or not. Maybe his parents were even worse. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, he's not of this world, so I think your speculation is probably more accurate than mine will ever be. I just know that he's a little bit twisted. Just a little bit.
Of your many, many, many characters you played, which one would you say was your favorite?
This question comes up over and over again. That's why I'm shaking my head. Everybody always wants to know the favorite, and I can't really choose favorites because each one holds a different place in my heart and my head. And from day to day and sometimes moment to moment throughout the day, that changes. So I think Tuesday I'm doing some sort of big creature that I can't talk about because I'm signed to an NDA. But that day, that character will be my favorite. And so, it just depends on what's going on. A couple hours ago, Spike Spiegel was my favorite because I was doing the bebop panel, So it just depends. Watching this, it sort of brought back some memories from... And that's kind of awesome, So they're my favorites for all different reasons. And so, if you ask me 10 minutes from now, I could give you 5 more. So. Hi.
Hi. I just want to ask, because you and Troy Baker, you both play Wolverine and Deadpool, and you both play sometimes you play the leading man kind of character. So I want to know, do you think you can kick Troy Baker's ass?
Well, that battle may happen, actually. I'm actually doing a live podcast with him from the Improv in Hollywood next week for Rob Paulson's Talkin' Tunes. Have you guys ever listened to his podcast? Yes. We're doing that live on stage, and Troy and I are going to be together on stage, so maybe we'll have a throwdown. I don't know. It's going to be a vocal throwdown. It's not going to be, no blood will be shed, as far as I know, unless it comes from our throats. Troy is a great guy. You know, I love him and I respect him, and he's one of the new guys in town who's really made a name for himself already. So I couldn't fight Troy. He's my buddy. He's like my baby brother who's 10 feet taller than me. I know he's a better musician, that much I know. He could definitely kick my ass on stage.
Good evening. Hello.
Good evening to you, sir.
Nice to meet you. Or kind of meet you. Anyway, so as a voice actor, what is your biggest challenge besides fighting Troy Baker?
Traffic.
That's it.
Literally, most of my job is spent in my car, just getting to and from gigs. LA is a big town, and I'll spend sometimes 3 or 4 hours a day in the car just trying to get to and from gigs, or auditions and that sort of thing. So,
thank you for being here. Love you.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you. Oh, okay. Well, you have to discuss that with him because he's the man in charge there, so, okay.
How did it feel to play Spike Spiegel?
How did it feel? Amazing, actually. And I think it felt even more amazing years later when it's like 14 years later and I'm coming here and you guys are still talking about Cowboy Bebop. That's what's really amazing about that role. Not every show is like that. Some shows are they're not necessarily forgotten, but they're sort of, glossed over because other things come up. But Bebop kind of took on a life of its own, and to the point where my fellow castmates, have been talking about doing a Bebop tour at some point, where we actually go to different states and do this all over again, over and over. So it was a profound impact on my life to the point where I have Spike's voice tattooed on my arm. That's actually bang. That's the wave file for bang. Yeah, the answer is it felt pretty good.
You know the wave file?
Long-winded answer.
What a wave file is on a computer? Where it shows
Okay.
Sorry about being a bit over excited there. But I hope I don't cause any laughter when I mention this. But I heard recently you were in a preschool program. Can you explain what that was and what was the experience like?
Are we talking about Dr. McStuffins?
Yeah.
Getting to sing as a kangaroo in our preschool program was one of the greatest highlights of my life. Also opposite Rob Paulson on that.
I was a kangaroo and I got to sing this song. I feel better, so much better. Thank the doc for taking all the ouches away.
That kind of thing. And then as Commander Crush for the Christmas special. He's a robot who has a broken wing or something. I forgot, he's a robot toy, and got to sing the song as that as well. Wow. Doc McStuffins. Do you guys know Doc McStuffins? Yeah. You have little kids? No. It's a preschool show, and it's animated really beautifully, actually. And it's this little girl who they call Doc, and she actually fixes broken toys. And so there's a guest toy every week, and there's a bunch of her toys that come to life every time she's about to fix a toy. So it was actually a great show to work on, because I'm used to working on much more adult-themed shows, as you guys have brought up. And so for me to do something that's actually kid-safe and actually has some good stories to them that are actually helpful in child development is kind of a nice thing for me. I started out reading for little kids when I was very early in my career, just going to schools and reading children's stories. And I learned how to be a voice actor from doing that, so it kind of brings me full circle. So thank you for that. Awesome. That was worth the outburst, so thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
I am cosplaying today as Mugen from Samurai Champloo.
I recognize that.
I love the character. I love the anime. I've got to ask you, has there ever been a moment when you're reading the lines you're supposed to read, like looking over and you think, man, this show is awesome, or this character is awesome? Anything in particular you can think of?
Specifically regarding Samurai Champloo or
Just
any show?
anything in general.
It happens to me almost every day. I love what I do, and I may not know as much about the shows as you guys do, but I'm a geek at heart. My first job was in a comic book store. My grandfather owned a bookstore. My very first job 12 and 13 years old sorting comic books. And I remember back then just going, oh, Superman! I got so excited. So pretty much every show I find something to connect to and have a little squee moment. And probably the loudest audible outbursts would have been when I met Frank Welker working on Scooby-Doo. And I kind of went in the room, and I think I let out an audible squee, and I had to come and fanboy all over him. And then several years later, I'm working with him on Transformers Prime, and he and Peter Cullen, and we're all in the same room together. You know, the heart's just beating, and they turn out to be really sweet, genuine guys. And you would think that getting that sort of response from those guys would sort of quell that fanboy in me, but it doesn't. I worked with Stan Lee since then, had the same effect. LeVar Burton recently, working with him on a show now called Rescue Bots, had the same problem with him. I had to calm myself down before I could actually work. I mean, and that's the great thing, I think, about most of the people in the voice acting community is that we're all fans like you guys are. You know, we love this stuff. We love these shows, and they mean a lot to us. And if I ever lose that sort of fanboy squee, then I shouldn't be in the business anymore as far as I'm concerned. I should always do that, and I think that honors you guys too. That means that we'll put the best performance forward that we can. So, yeah, but it happens almost every day. Good question. And everybody goes silent. Oh, is that what it is? I see. That's big competition.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What was your most frustrating role to play, whether it be before, during, or after the voice acting part? Your most frustrating experience in voice acting?
In voice acting, most frustrating experience?
In general, yes.
Ooh, man. Well, I think just physically, back in the Digimon days, I was doing a lot of big creatures. And I also did some little teeny tiny creatures. There was this creature called Poromon, Digimon.
Hey, Pokemon spoke like this.
And after going for like 2 or 3 hours, they expected me to go right from that and go. It was really frustrating because sometimes it just wouldn't come out anymore. I just didn't have that in my throat anymore, and it would take 2 or 3 days before I could come back to it.
Has that cleared up? Have you been able to switch back and forth lately?
Yeah. I mean, I can do that now. I'm much better trained, so I know when my limit hits, and I can usually stop doing that before I go on to the next thing. But not always. I mean, now it's the vocal stress still happens, especially in video games. I'm working on a game now, and it's all screaming, and I'm playing like a 400-pound character that's literally through, like every kind of possible death. This guy, he's being electrocuted, he's being hung, he's being impaled through the eye. And you do that for 4 hours, and you try to do something else. Like something happens afterwards, and there's nothing left. So I have to really pace myself now. So that's the only thing I would really say that's frustrating about it. As far as the things that frustrate a lot of actors, like, I didn't get the job, that kind of thing, that doesn't bother me. I do the auditions, and I walk away, and I go on to the next thing. And if I don't get it, I know one of my friends will. So my frustrations are I think, not the norm, necessarily.
Okay, I just have to point out for a second that there is this person right here who has had their hand up for so long that someone else is supporting it for them. So I'm gonna have to give it to them.
Okay. We don't want any injuries here.
Hi. I want to ask the question, like, how did you get into voice acting? And did you realize that your career would inspire all these fans? Did you realize that you were going to be that awesome to all these people?
Well, that's a big question. The first part of that question, I would answer by accident, honestly. I had no idea I was going to become a voice actor. I've been doing silly voices since I was a little kid, and I never even considered it as a possibility to do that for a living. And I had probably 30, maybe 40 jobs throughout my lifetime, and I didn't become a full-time professional voice actor until I was 40 years old. So it came as a huge surprise to me. I really didn't think that was even possible. So I became a voice actor by working in a mailroom at a low-budget film company called Empire Pictures, where we made Reanimator and From Beyond and Ghoulies and those kinds of films. Eventually, the Puppet Master films through Full Moon Entertainment. And I stayed with that company for 14 years and became an executive at that company, all while I was doing anime on the side on the weekends. And so for me, it was always fun, and I never really made much money doing voice work. But it was just, I loved doing it, and I loved doing that more than anything else. And so at one point, I booked a 7-Eleven commercial, and I thought, well, you know, maybe this is the time. I'm going to get rich from 7-Eleven, and I'm going to quit my job after 14 years. And I did, and then the union went on strike, and I was out of work for almost a year, and living on credit cards. So for you aspiring voice actors, make sure you have a backup plan, or rich parents or something. So, you know, I struggled like a lot of people do, and but at that point, I was too far into it to turn back. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And I don't mind eating pet food if I have to for a year to stay with voiceover. I just love doing it. And so I continued on, and several years later, I ended up at these conventions, and it didn't really hit me about how much it meant to you guys until Toonami was done. And I've been going to conventions. There was a lot of great fan interaction before that, but when it really, really struck home for me was the sadness that people expressed when Toonami was over. They said that it felt like their childhood was over. And for me, I thought, wow, you know, this really means something to people. What I'm doing actually can affect lives. And since then, I've spoken to people in battle situations who say that some of the games that I've worked on, oddly enough, games like Call of Duty, would take these guys from the battlefield to a happy place. Some of these guys in Afghanistan who were seeing horrible things during the day would come back to their tent at night and play Call of Duty, and it would make them feel better. And that didn't make any sense to me, but it did. It kept these guys say that it kept them alive. And in some cases, people who have had terrible things happen to them, physical and emotional, have contacted me, and they said that, you know, watching a show just made me feel good enough to want to keep going. And so that's the kind of stuff that motivates me to keep moving forward and made me realize that I'm actually doing something of value to you guys. So, but you guys are the reason that any of that happened. I don't think that has as much to do with me as to do with your love of the genre and your investment in these characters, which makes me want to do the best job I possibly can. Another victim. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hey, so I play a lot of games, and I read a while ago that you did the zombie voice in Saints Row 3. What was that like? Because you voiced the entire game in a zombie voice, and it's like hardly recognizable most of the time.
Yeah. Oh, it's great when you don't have any words you have to abide by. That was so much fun, and they're my dear, dear friends also at PCB Productions. Keith Aram, when I walked into the studio that day, he said, okay, so we have this full session for you, and there are no words, you just get to go, cool, this is the job of a lifetime. There's almost nothing better than playing zombies, honestly. Either killing zombies or playing zombies, either one is good.
Yeah, my favorite part was when you sang What I Got with Pierce in the car.
Oh, yeah.
What
I got. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mandibles hanging by one thread. Hello?
Hey. My name is Jacob. I'm a big fan of Regular Show, and I saw from your reprised role on that as Techno several times. I was wondering if you liked the show or interacted with the creators or any of that.
Yeah, Regular Show, we're all there together working in the same room. I love working on that gig. It's really fun, and they usually pair me with Mark Hamill for most of my characters. Yeah, and that, another fanboy moment, by the way. The first time I walked in the room with that guy, I almost plotzed and soiled myself. I just couldn't believe that I was in the same room with him. And he's such a genuine, down-to-earth, amazing human being, and genuinely talented too, just incredible. And he loves doing voiceover. He really, really loves it. So to get to play in that arena is just an amazing thing, and the creators are there with us every time. It's a great cast. It's a really great experience every time I go in. The one thing that's funny about that show is that it makes no sense to me when I get the scripts. Typically, when I get scripts for these original animated shows, they have notes in between. the stage notes is what they call them, and they'll sort of set the scene. They'll say, you know, it's an interior, and you're sitting around a coffee table, and you guys have drinks in your hands, and you're talking about this, and it's relating to this. And then you see all the character breakdowns next to it. This is just like line, 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 and you know how out of context everything is in that show. So I'll read the script the night before, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. And working with Mark especially on that is really funny, because Mark really likes to know what's going on. And so he'll sit there, and he puts the glasses down on his nose. So what's the context of this scene? I need to know that is Skip's happy? Is he sad? Does he have a carrot in his mouth? Are his pants clean? You know, he asks all these questions. He just wants to know everything about it. So it's really fun to watch everybody's process in that show. And I never know what I'm doing when I walk in. I never know what characters I'm going to play. Tecmo has been recurring. I've been an astronaut guy, I think, a couple times now, and the guy in the park, and the sensei for the sandwich of death. That was really fun. But they keep bringing me in. I'm always surprised and always really, really grateful. They're really good people.
That Yeti person sounded like this was by Harvey Peterson.
Well, that's Mark Hamill's voice on that. He skips, and he's basically a Yeti. He is a Yeti.
Yeah, and he speaks like this. Yes, he's very funny. And he literally does skip for you guys who haven't seen the show. He's a Yeti who skips.
But he sounds like Harvey Peterson.
He does. Yes, he does. Okay, who's next?
I want to start off by saying that you're my favorite voice actor out of any voice actor.
Oh, dude, thank you.
Yes! But my question to you is this. Of all the late nights that I've been playing Nazi zombies on Call of Duty, what was your favorite moment of playing Tank Dempsey in all the maps?
Actually, it wasn't. My favorite moment as Tank Dempsey wasn't in the game at all. We did a Christmas album. Did you guys hear that? Yeah. And we got in big trouble for it, by the way. We just wanted to do it as a gift to you guys, and the three of us got together. Tom Kane was not available to do that. He lives in another state. But Fred Tatasciore, Nolan North, and I got together, and we did the whole album in basically a night. And there was a lot of booze involved. And the moments with Fred, I think, particularly, because literally no matter what we wrote, he sang about vodka and belched and talked about how to bury ladies of the night, I'll say it nicely, and how to get rid of them by chopping them up. And Nolan, I think my very favorite moment of that was when Tank was talking about the Hanukkah song, and Nolan, who plays a Nazi in that thing, at the end of the song, he said, "Oh, what a catchy little tune." He goes, "It doesn't sound like a Christmas song." And I said, "It's Hanukkah, dumbass." And he goes, "What?" And that one moment was the best thing that ever happened. But that was an outpouring from the game itself. So, but yeah, I mean, anytime I got to say dirty words, it was really fun with him too. I can't say any of them here, but tushy maggots. That was like, but the yelling hurt. Maggots! Flesh bags. Flesh in my new boots. Okay, who's next?
Hi, my name is Tay,
Hi.
and I wanted to know, how did you land the role of Tom for Toonami?
That was one of the very few roles that they asked me to do without auditioning. And that was based on my performance of Spike. So another reason to love Spike for me. The guys called me, and they were coming to a convention. I think it was Anime Expo. They were in town, and they're based in Atlanta. And they asked if I wanted to meet, if I'd be interested in doing this show called Toonami. And I said, "What? What is it?" I didn't even know. And they showed me a little bit of footage, and they said, "Well, we had you in mind for this. We really like what you did with Spike. We want this guy to be really snarky and not robotic at all. And would you be interested in doing the show?" And before they could even finish the sentence, I went, "Yeah!" And especially because it was promoting anime, and that was, it's my first love. So all of the elements were there for that. And I just walked right into the role. I was so blessed to get that. And still so grateful to work with those guys. Amazing. And it's exactly the same team that I was working with back then. Except for one of the creators, Sean Akins, has gone on to other things. But Jason DeMarco is still there. And the entire production team is still there. It's amazing. And those guys, by the way, now that Toonami's back, a lot of those guys did that on their own time for no extra money, and they continue to. They work really, really long hours doing all the other stuff for Adult Swim, and they stay late and they work on the Toonami stuff for you guys. So, I will. And by the way, if you haven't heard, we're going to do an Intruder too. Next year. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Intruder 2 is coming. Yeah. So can't tell you anything more about it now. It will be happening. Okay, who's next? Oh, over here. Okay.
Okay, so you played Mugen and Spike Spiegel. So if they fought, who do you think would win?
Spike could just shoot him.
But Mugen could dodge it.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I don't like when the characters fight. Can't everybody just get along with it? I'd like to see him go out for some dumplings and beer, you know?
Dumplings and sake.
There you go, even better. Both. Why not both? Okay. I've been to Japan. You have sake, beer, and whiskey all in one meal. That is the meal.
Hi, my name's Dana, but you can call me Spike, or a very good or very reasonable facsimile thereof. Anyway, my question is about Tom. At some point, you're going to have to get out of the game and retire, unfortunately. And we hope Toonami, we hope Toonami is still going. Who in the new up-and-coming voice actors would you get to replace you as Tom?
That's a really good question. Well, it'd have to be one of the young guys. I don't know, because the guys my age would probably be dead too, so. And it would have to be somebody who's probably about 3 years old right now, because I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. So, it would probably be one of your children. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could recommend, any of a dozen of my friends, but, they're all maybe 10 years behind me. And I really plan to keep on doing this as long as I can. And working with guys like Stan Lee, who's in his 90s now, he's still working all the time. I hope I'm doing that at his age. I really, if I'm going to go, I don't mind going in front of a microphone. I'm good with that. So.
He's sitting in my chair, 99 years old. I got 99 problems. One of them is that I'm gonna die.
Okay, so I came from California. Pretty much everybody's ripped out my questions for me. Can I just go up and have a hug, please?
Can you go up and what?
Give you a hug, please?
Yes.
Your day's been made.
One of my homies, yo. I just got a text from my buddy Jerry Gelb. Do you guys know who he is? He, in the Cowboy Bebop movie, do you remember the guy who's sneezing all the time? Yeah, well, the pictures that I'm signing at this convention, you'll see that there's a donation going to support Jerry Gelb, and Jerry needs a neck surgery. And he had cancer when he was a kid, and the radiation just sort of tore up his neck, and at this point his head just sort of falls forward. So he's going in for neck surgery, and we've raised almost $40,000 for him. So anytime his name comes up here, it just makes me happy. So he's doing really well, thanks to you guys. Hi.
I just wanted to start out by thanking you for your voice acting in Smora, because just
You're
made me love
welcome.
that show even more, so thank you. And great job with that.
Thank you for forgiving me.
I wanted to ask if, like with anime, sometimes a lot of people compare the English voice actor to the Japanese voice actor. And I was
was just wondering if when you're preparing to do the voice for like the English dub of an anime, if you ever listen to the Japanese voice actor to kind of like get an idea of the character, or if that's not so much a factor and it's more just kind of your own interpretation. But I was wondering kind of what your process was with that.
Well, in anime, as in a lot of areas of voiceover, there's no time for process, basically. I walk into the studio, they hand me a script, and they say, go. And it goes that fast. I've never seen the character before, I've never heard anything before. And usually they'll play the Japanese actor's line just before I do my version of it. But basically that's for timing and just for intensity. So, you know, if I'm 20 feet away from somebody and the actor is projecting very loudly to be heard, I need to know that in advance, and the engineer needs to know that kind of stuff. So it's more for the technical reasons than anything else. Most studios prefer just to surprise us, honestly. They want us to be surprised. And we were talking about this earlier in the Bebop panel, that the director of that show didn't want us to know anything about the show ahead of time. And so everything was a cold read, and even when we were dying to know what was going to happen at the end of the episode, he wouldn't tell us. It was line by line, and they'd give us just enough context so we could perform it properly. And that was it. So there is no prep time at all. Something like Legend of Korra, we would get the scripts the night before, or sometimes 2 nights before. So we could read through it a little bit and know a little bit of the story arc. And especially because they're animating to our character voices, it makes a big difference that way. But in the confines of anime, it's already been done, so we just got to stay within that context and bring out as much as we possibly can. Good question. Okay, next. 5 minutes? We have 5 minutes, okay. Oh, okay. Back here.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, first of all, are you having a good day today?
I'm having a great day, thank you.
Okay, question is, well, actually it's more of a request, could you do a Batman voice?
Batman is kind of towards my Wolverine area. I don't really attempt to do Batman because he's been done so well before. He's a character that I've always thought that my voice would be right for because he's right in my wheelhouse, and it's very close to my normal speaking voice, at least the way I pictured Batman in my twisted mind when I was a little kid reading comics. But the other guys who've done Batman have done such a spectacular job with it, I don't think I can really add anything to that role. Although I did get to be Lego Batman, which was nonverbal. In the original Lego Batman game, I was the guy who went, So that was enough for me. That satisfied that urge. But I am not the knight. Okay, who's next?
This guy right here.
What is like your most embarrassing recording session?
Well, I did talk about one of those earlier. One that I haven't talked about at this convention yet, for those of you who've been to all panels so far, was a moment that I passed out in the booth. I was auditioning for one of the Spider-Man games as one of the bad guys, and I was right in the middle of a scream, and it had been a really long day, I hadn't eaten. And I went, ah! And the next thing you hear is, ah! And then the next thing you hear is the door opening, the engineer and the director running in. Oh my God, are you okay? And you hear my voice in the background. I think I might have just passed out. And that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was 2 months later, I was in another recording studio on another show with a different director, and they played it for me. These guys are passing this around from studio to studio. It's really awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Hi, friend.
Hello.
So I was wondering if the fandom ever gets overwhelming and kind of creepy.
Yes. Yes, it does. But you know what? I was really creeped out when I first started doing conventions. My very first convention was in San Jose, and it was many years ago when dubs weren't very widely accepted. And the otaku back then were not very friendly. They weren't like you guys are now. They hated us dubbers. And to the point where I had my life threatened. My family's life was threatened. I had to change my email address and my phone number. And that freaked me out. And there were people stalking in my house, coming to my house, and it's pretty weird. Now people can be as creepy as they want to be, but the thing is here, you can be whoever you want to be. We're a family. All of us are a family. Look how we're dressed. There's no judgment. And honestly, that's why I keep coming back, because I believe in acceptance, and I think it's great that you can come here, and no matter how shy you are, how uncomfortable you may be in your day-to-day life, you can come here and we're all accepted for exactly who we are. And so that never creeps me out anymore. People can go through whatever they're going to go through, and I'm just going to love them the way they are. So, yeah, you don't scare me.
If you had $1 million, what would you do with it?
If I had $1 million, I'd go to work tomorrow. Honestly, I do exactly the same thing I'm doing now.
My question is, have you ever had a point where you actually turned down a role because you did not feel like you were the part for it? Like you could not actually cope with it? And examples?
Only one role. And this was a role that I went in. It was called Project X. That's all they told me. And for those of you who heard this before, it was years ago, But this is literally the only role I turned down. I walked into the studio and they said, okay, you're going to be this monster. He's about 30, 40 feet tall. And you're going to be attacking this girl. And go. And it was an anime, and I'm recording, and the monster has tentacles. Use your imagination. They had cameras inside and outside, and it was horrifying to me. And this girl looked underage, of course, in a schoolgirl outfit. And I lasted maybe about 4 to 5 minutes in the studio, and I said, I didn't sign up for this, and I'm not going to do this kind of stuff. I'm sorry. You can hire somebody else. No judgment, but no thanks. And so I walked out, and I've never done one of those since. So. Yes, it's not me. Good. Hello. Hello.
My question for you is, how would you recommend getting into voice acting?
I get asked this every day, literally. Go to my website, steveblumvoices.com. There's a page that says, how do I become a voice actor? Click on that button, and there's a page that gives you the overview of what it's like, and then there are links. The link I would specifically direct you to, and it's on there, is iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, and it's a blog that D. Bradley Baker writes. And he updates it all the time. He just updated it this week, and it's fantastic. It's chock full of information that'll save you a lot of time and money and heartache. And there's also a book by Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt called Voice Over Voice Actor that I highly recommend, and all of that's on my site. So as long as you can remember my name, you'll find me on the internet. And just look at my website, and all that information's there. And that would be the best thing that I could do to direct you. Oh, okay. I'm getting the message. Do I have time for one more question? Yeah. Okay, one more question.
Alright, so I have a friend that really likes Orochimaru, and he asked me if I can please get an Orochimaru's Love Confession or Valentine's Day to Kabuto's.
To who?
Kabuto's.
Kabuto?
Yes. Please. I'm sorry, please.
Hello. I don't want you to be lonely on Valentine's Day. So I'm going to take over your body. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to be doing a signing. Okay, I'm going to be doing an autograph signing like right now. So track me down. It's